Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lawrenceville. Whether you're in person in the room or out there in virtual reality, we hope you are having a wonderful Parents' Weekend and the start of the conferences are going well. My name is John Hughes. I'm the Director of Experiential Education here at Lawrenceville. And on behalf of my colleagues, Mike Hanewald, who's over here in the shadows, and Louise Wright, who's down in the front, they are the associate directors of our Harkness travel program, and we together work in the office planning our travel programs. And after 2 very strange years, I am cautiously hopeful and optimistic that what I'm about to share with everyone, and even our students who might be out there live streaming because we sent them this link as well, I'm privileged to drop at this moment where we think we're going to be able to travel this year in March and in the summer. So the big asterisk that's going to be over my head and under everything that I am saying is that, of course, we don't know what the state of the pandemic will do over the next 6 months, but we are hopeful that our assessments and our projections are going to allow us to move forward. And so I'm going to talk to you about 12 programs that represent 10 countries of the world. It's not the full global representation that we hope for every year, but 25 of our faculty members are looking forward to sharing their passion and their interests with our students by taking House and Harkness out of Lawrenceville, across the country, and to 9 different countries. The United States is one of those 10 for sure. And I'm also going to talk to you about one opportunity for next school year, the whole year as well. All of our Harkness travel programs are designed to match our curricular and co-curricular offerings at the school. We want to instill a growth and self-awareness to all of our students and allow them to participate and learn to be global citizens, give them practical applications for real-life leadership in a way that allows them to make mistakes and still be successful as they navigate themselves through our programs. And so without further ado, and for all of you students who are out there, here are the offerings for spring break this year. As I read along, you'll see some of the faculty members who are attached to the programs. We're still adding a few here and there. And you'll read what we see are the potential dates. We're pretty much 98% locked in on those dates, particularly for departure dates during spring break. But adjustments always tend to get made when we actually go to purchase airline tickets. And then stay tuned at the end for questions, particularly from you parents. There'll certainly be anticipated questions that I'll try to answer and give you an opportunity to chat with the 3 of us from the office at the end. So here we go. Explore the culture, history, and contributions to philosophy, language, politics, and mathematics in Greece. Note a little special attention in the underneath. We would love upper-level math students who want coursework. There's a math trail that the students will follow as they study in Greece. Investigate how we connect with our environment and the reality of climate change within the evolving landscapes and geothermal impacts of the tectonic plate boundary in Iceland. Delve into the food traditions and values of farmers, researchers, and chefs in one of the world's blue zones, a region with a higher per capita number of 100-plus-year-old residents than anywhere else in the world, in Sardinia. Navigate your way over land, water, air, space, and time within one of the greatest historical cultures of navigation, the Polynesians of Oceania in Hawaii. Engage in topics of cultural identity, citizenship, land rights, sustainability, immigration, and border dynamics with the communities and ecosystems of the Rio Grande River Basin and Santa Fe, New Mexico. And gain a global perspective on the game of basketball while competing against and interacting with teenagers in Spain. And this is for our boys and girls basketball program only. So that's spring break. It's not as many as we hoped, Not as many as we normally have, but we're really excited and optimistic that we can achieve those programs this year as we return to travel. Let's talk a little bit about summer. Produce a museum-destined video documentary of the summer solstice celebration while trekking across the Alps of Austria and Germany. Enliven the places and figures of classical antiquity by exploring the texts, structures, and artifacts in which their accounts survive in Italy. Challenge your historical lens and hike, paddle, and reflect along the paths and land stewarded by native peoples long before Lewis and Clark set foot in this pristine and majestic wilderness. Restore an ecosystem for future generations while working under a breathtaking view of Mount Hood in Oregon. And perform in the largest arts festival in the world and experience the spectacle of the performing arts on a scale like never before in Scotland. And finally, and I'm going to come off of our own homegrown programs, we are a partner school with School Year Abroad, and we are privileged to offer the opportunity of immersion. So live and learn with a host family immersed in their culture and language in France, Spain, and Italy on their 5-week summer program in these cities in Spain, France, and Italy. Now, the summer program the application is already open. It's rolling admissions. And so any student that wants the endorsement of our school for the summer program needs to apply through the process that we're going to talk about next. And also apply to School Year Abroad and be accepted. And we'll talk about that application process in just a couple of minutes. But I also want to share that there are scholarship opportunities for School Year Abroad as well. There are up to 8 students who could receive a full scholarship to one of the School Year Abroad summer programs. It's need-based, and they go through the same process as all of the other students in applying, and then we will identify those students if they click that they're interested in the VO Family International Fund, given to us by a school family so that students of need can go and be immersed in another culture and language and homestay in the summer. School Year Abroad also provides an opportunity for full year study. We have 2 students, one in France and one in Spain, studying right now. And so this would be for next school year, and this is open to our 4th formers and our 5th formers. And that application deadline is February 10th. And so I'm going to turn things over to Mike Hannawald, my colleague, who's going to talk a little bit about the process by which we put our Harkness programs together so that we ensure really hyper-vigilant focus on the important part of travel, which is the education, by making sure that the risk management is taken care of and mitigated appropriately. And so here's Mr. Hannawald.
Great. Well, I love what I do. I just ended a conference with the DeMarco family. I love my job, and to travel with students and share the world as I've seen it and experienced and learn alongside them has been great. But we do a lot of work to make sure we can run these programs. And if you were to step into our office, it'd be like mission control in a way. There's a huge board, grids every trip, and everything from the advertising process, checklist to, yes, we're getting everything back from our trip leaders. We have a process that begins a year in advance of our travel. We end up having a lot of programs that our faculty are building. When we took a look at this year and considered COVID, we weren't really building something that we had our feet on the ground already, that we haven't run before, or we haven't worked with a certain, we ensured that we're working with certain vendors that we have a good experience with, so as we manage COVID going forward. But we start a year in advance, and we take a look at everyone's proposals. We try to match it to the school mission statement, our own mission statement, take a look at that House and Harkness connection. We meet with many of the deans and directors within the medical department to review, put our stamp on, and we still have a lot of work to do. And so over the summer, our faculty are building the curriculum pieces and thinking about what they will deliver 6 or 7 months out in advance. When we go out and travel, it's incredible. We do have everything with us. We have all these records with us. We can, go into any, emergency center and have the files. But we also have someone on phone, our own doctor, and we work with ISOS. And so when we think about how we build and then what we go with, we have a lot of support and a lot of training behind us. Mentioned International SOS. We're also part of and really a leading school in international group of educators looking at international travel and international education. That's a global education benchmark group. And we've been leading the field in a lot of the areas of risk management and the training we provide our faculty. So our faculty are going to receive a 2-day wilderness first aid training that we often do specify and think about the encounters that we're going to be able to potentially see in the field. That's a certified course. And we also run through a number of trainings with the students as well. Scenario-based education, understanding that our students are as much a member of this risk management team as we all are as we look at this process. So it's a huge commitment on our school's part, obviously, with our time and resources and energies and on your commitment. So we meet together and we manage the risk. Mentioned all that stuff already. So one of the fun things too is we send many of our faculty out in the field. If it's a new program, they are experiencing it on their own, talking to the people, maybe living in the homestay if that's a program that we're doing, and making the right decisions. And so we're not going blind into a program. We bring our expertise. So see if this works. Great. There you go, John.
So this is probably the question that is on the minds of most people. How are we going to mitigate the ongoing pandemic risk? So broadly, our destinations are continually assessed and reassessed. We do it 12 months out. We do it at the beginning of the school year. We do it 6 months out. We do it 2 months out. We do it 1 month out. We do it 1 week out. And we are constantly relooking at the State Department, at the Center for Disease Control, at what international SOS security and medical feedback is giving us. And since the pandemic, we are looking much more in depth at hospital capacity and ability to respond from an emergency management perspective if our broken leg was not going to be taken care of because the medical resources in a community that we're traveling to can't handle it. It's unethical for us to put ourselves into that community. So we will be looking at that continually and constantly. January we're giving ourselves a sort of an internal, boy, if the program destination doesn't pass muster for viability, that might be a cutoff point, and we're not going to sort of skate to late February before we make a final call on that. But all of our assessments are program specific, not broadly based across, say, Europe or across all of our travel. We don't want to put out anything that we do not feel could run. Since the COVID cancellations of 2 years ago, our vendor partners, they're our partners internationally, the school, and we're looking to our families as well. We're gonna all need to be in this process together. So we, through our vendors, they are providing on most of our programs, cancel for any reason insurance. We will purchase for the programs themselves when the vendors don't offer that. Now that is limited to 75% of non-refundable costs. So we will also be providing links to our families who sign up to travel this year, encouraging them to purchase policies that cover that last 25%. Beyond that, anything that the school can be refunded from a vendor, we will, if it's refundable to us, we will make it refundable if we have to cancel a program due to COVID. If a family needs to cancel for any reason, we will handle that on a case-by-case basis. In terms of management in the field with COVID, we're going to continue with as much of our school Swiss cheese approach as we possibly can. So travel on a Harkness travel program is not a requirement of our students at Lawrenceville. And as such, we can put a full vaccination mandate. So we are mandating, based on our reviews and recommendations from our risk management team, that any traveler, faculty or student on a travel program must be vaccinated against COVID. We will build testing into the program fees. Testing is actually a lot easier to come by in Europe than it currently is in the United States, but we will be building all of that in with our vendors, making sure that is done timely and efficiently so that we can return, and that's what's allowing us to say, yes, we feel confident that we can go and come home. There still will be double occupancy rooms or tents, or we would take a whole bunkhouse at one facility or potentially renting a whole house that will allow our group, our contained group, to stay together. There's really no way around hospital stays. We're very much against single rooms in Europe. We don't want our students alone in a room. We want them with partners. That's part of our risk management oversight of travel. As long as we will follow all directives of any destination and our schools, whichever is more, frankly, conservative. And so I anticipate masks will continue to be used in all indoor and all public spaces. Our programs are favoring this year outdoor activities as a result of that. And each program will have a unique COVID response protocol that is built in January based on what we see on the ground at all of our destinations. So that will all be shared with the students, with the faculty, and with our families as we see what the reality is looking like in another quarter of the calendar year and what changes may be made. So I'm sure there's probably going to be more questions on this, but we're going to hold questions to the end, and I'm going to bring Mike Hannawell back up to talk about the application process. So students, if you're still out there, it's now time to pay attention to the not risk side of things. What do you need to do next? And parents who are in the room, how you can encourage your students to apply in the process that they need. It's a very short window.
Certainly a question we'll get in a moment from a parent is how can we get on this program? So really excited, and I know the students will be excited since we haven't been able to travel. This is our opening. We have a website that we can access as well. And next Wednesday is a big important day for students. You are going to end up finding every trip leader in one of the rooms in the Kirby Science Center. And they'll be able to talk to the trip leaders, get a little bit more information, and get excited. So inform yourselves then. In this process, we have an application that states your interest, and if you traveled a little bit before, because we want to be able to look at that as well as we're building our program of students. For selections, we're looking for this best fit. Might need a certain balance, might need some language speakers in there as well. We will end up letting students know about the decision process by Thanksgiving, and these the applications are due on November 1st. We really try to get everyone to travel. We're backlogged. Seniority might end up taking some of the trip spots, but we say please apply to all the programs because we're looking for that balance, and you never know who's ready to do what at what time. So when we do these programs, it's really rich because we'll get all range of students, and it's another great way to come together as a community with this. Financial aid does apply to all of our programs. If you're receiving a certain percentage of aid towards your education here, that same percentage is granted and given towards one of our international programs. So please pay attention to that as potentially you're thinking about the years to come and programs to select. All right, and the commitment part is very important. Mr. Hughes just talked a little bit about those financial responsibilities and getting money back. But now's not the time to kind of commit to something and then put all the money in and say, well, what about the SAT? Can I get my son or daughter back 3 days early from the program? Because the answer is absolutely not. It's not designed to shortcut. So look at those sports schedules, everything that might be happening in that month, because we need to build this trip. So once we let you know, by early December, we're starting to make our purchases, and we're meeting with the students and starting to get them into the curricular aspects as well as the risk management aspects of their program. So looking forward to next Wednesday, talking to a lot of you. Go to Austria. I love that's a program I'll be on. And again, we're happy to offer these programs, and look forward to answering more questions from you later.
I'm going to just touch on a couple more notes from this slide. So with the 1 to 3 choices, students often ask, do I need to apply for 3? I'm only interested in 1. Please only apply to the programs that you are willing to travel on. I don't even like to think of it as ranked. like, I'm willing to travel on these programs because we want to make sure we get as many students on programs as possible, and if we're not allowing that to happen because we've dropped somebody onto their second choice and then they back off and it's too late, we lose a spot. And so if you only apply to one, that's okay. But if you were willing to apply to 3, make sure it's 3 you're willing to go on if accepted to. And one more note about the financial aid, that also applies, due to our relationship with School Year Abroad, that applies to School Year Abroad summer programming as well. Not the full year program, but summer. So if that's something that you are interested in or your child is interested in, and you want to go on an immersive language program next summer for 5 weeks, your aid percentage will follow to School Year Abroad summer, and that's pretty significant. So a little bit more, how do I learn more? So as Mr. Hannawell just said, next Wednesday, October 20th, in the KSMC classrooms, there will be an open house for you to go and shop all the programs and talk to the trip leaders and ask questions and try to decipher. School Year Abroad is going to send a rep to discuss summer and next school year on the 25th. The application deadline is November 1st. So there's a couple of weeks between now and then, but not a long time. Our commitment is to try to get to families who are asked to travel a notification by Thanksgiving break so you can discuss it as a family to determine if this is right for you. And then we can get all the paperwork out to you and you can look at how that goes. And if not, we can allow somebody who's on the wait list. Most of our travel programs end up with a wait list of 2 to 10 to sometimes 20 students. And with the backlog of travel this year, there is a handful of our seniors who traveled in 2019 before the COVID pandemic shut down our travel. We anticipate it's going to take a couple years to get through that backlog. Deposits and paperwork are due in early December, and then we will be having program orientations and parents' information orientations as well in December or January, depending on the destination. And all of these details with further information on each one of our programs, including links to the application, links to the head of house recommendation, links to the CDC and the State Department, can all be found on our Harkness Travel webpage. And this presentation is being emailed in probably about 30 minutes to all of the students with all of those links in it. So have your students share that with you as well if you want to see this presentation again. Okay, and so that's kind of the end of our formal presentation. We have, as I said, Mr. Hannawell's here, I'm here, and Mrs. Wright, Louise Wright, who handles all of our logistics in the office. We're all in the room and we can answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to have to parrot that so that our folks who are zooming in on the live stream can hear the question. What are the dates of the 5-week SYA? It starts in June. Each country destination is different. So it starts towards the end of June. That is live and the application is up on the School Year Abroad website, so sya.org, and you can figure that out. Yes, so School Year Abroad runs a school in their 3 cities. And the students go and they live with a family and they go to school with other School Year Abroad students. Only English and math are taught in English. Everything else is taught in the host country language. And they are given opportunities within the community for co-curriculars. So we have a student right now who is playing basketball, a student right now who is who's an artist and is out in an artist community. We've had hockey players go and play hockey.
I was going to ask if a student who likes to travel a lot, is there any detriment to them applying each year, or is it or are they better off waiting for something that really is like a priority to them, or may they apply each year and hopefully get to go more than one time?
So the question was, can a student travel more than once? And how do I strategize my second former's application process so that they get to travel? So we have, typically, we are going to prioritize students who have not traveled before. We will prioritize those who are going to graduate soonest. Some years, so before COVID shut us down, we had a trip on the books to go to Bali, Indonesia. That was all fifth formers. And we had a wait list that was maybe 30 long down the forms. But we had other programs where a second former could very easily get on. And so there is a little bit of strategy. I would encourage students to travel as often as they can. The financial aid only follows the student one time, but if it allows a student to get back on, maybe if they travel as a second former and they come back up as a fifth former based on the priority protocols that we look at, there is a good chance we've had students travel more than once. However, with this backlog right now, my hunch is it's going to be tougher to get on a smaller number of programs this year, and I can't guarantee that they would get to go a second time. So I have certainly talked to students when they say, I really want to go on that Nepal trip when we get that up and running again, and they're a second former. Well, don't travel on something else now, because you're going to want to do that when you're a junior or a senior.
Just one side story, in an age long ago, 5 or 6 years, one student went on 5 different programs. And that was all based on the capacity for each. Some of those trips were a little bit larger. One of them was one of these SYA or language programs that was very much kind of refined to a certain special group. So in normal conditions, it all depends. But go for it is what we say.
So just if you didn't hear that on the live stream, a few years back we did have one student who traveled on 5 different programs. They were just strategic about what they chose. It's highly unlikely that that's going to be consistently the case. Any other questions? Sure. How backlogged are we, and what are the opportunities for students in our second and third forms in particular? The short answer is in 2 ways. We're very backlogged in that I'm going to guess we might have 10 fifth formers, maybe less, who traveled in the summer before, the summer between their second and third form year before the pandemic shut us down in January of 2020. So very few students on this campus have been on a travel program before. The second part of that short answer is the demand appears very strong anecdotally in conversations with students and anecdotally across our different platforms of getting off campus to do day hikes up in the Delaware Water Gap or through our community service programming and hearing what students have done over the summer. I feel like the demand is there, and we have a smaller number of programs nonetheless than in typical years. So after that, I still don't really know how the parent demand appetite is going to be for this. And so there's a chance, but our goal is going to be based on this demand to help us determine what we do over the next few years so that by the time we can get through the next couple of years, we've cleared out that backlog so that we're back to normal. I wish I had a really totally positive answer for that in terms of saying any student that wants to travel is going to find a home on a program in the next 2 years, but it might take 3 before we get there.
What is the total capacity for the spring program?
Total capacity for the spring programs. So one program is just for the basketball program only, so that leaves, I think, 5 other programs with the programs will travel with 8, 10, 12, 14. Only one program has 16. So, we're not traveling a form of students. We don't want 20 people roaming around. We want to have very small impact. We think of these as traveling classes. And so you want to think about what a Harkness classroom is like. That's what we're trying to mimic. Any other questions? Okay, well, folks, we are always available via email, via phone call if you want to call the office. We'll hang out in the outer chamber if you would like to ask us questions, or just outside in the tent for a few minutes. And thank you so much for your time. Hopefully happy traveling for your students, and enjoy the rest of Parents Weekend. Thank you so much.